And we're joined right now on RealAgriculture.com by Saskatchewan farmer Danny Ottenbreit. Hey, Danny, how's it going?
Hey, Sean.
Hey, you're pretty well famous this week, man.
Oh, geez. Don't pump my head up anymore. Somebody's going to, pop it. People walk around with, needles and stuff trying to poke in the head all the time.
Well, you were on the National this week. Of course, we got a federal election going on, and you were on the National. You got to do a one-on-one sit down where you were like the interviewer blasting questions towards the Green Party leader, Elizabeth May. How was that?
It's pretty awesome for agriculture because we don't really get those forums, right?
Yeah. Are you disappointed that the agriculture hasn't been a part of the campaign? You kind of said that to May, but what do you think?
We're a small part of the electorate, right? But I mean, the big thing I think the governments are going to have to wake up to it. I mean, I even think the Greens are on this in a way. Like, we are a huge part of GDP, right? It's a lot of dollars. This is a big deal for the economy, and I wish we were more, but I wish I could have had 15 minutes with her because I could have talked.
Rosie Barton was trying to, hey, Danny, this is your last question. But you did a good job. You didn't stop. You kept on firing him, and she's like, okay, Danny, I really mean this is your last question.
Yeah, well, you've met me before. You know how I get fired up when people start talking about ag policy and agriculture and,
Absolutely.
I like to think I brought the ruckus a little bit.
You brought some emotion. I liked it. You did very, very well. So I guess the first thing is you talked to her about climate change and just how all the parties are really missing the full equation. Talk about that.
Yeah. Well, for sure. I hope people don't understand that. I really was that upset at the Green Party because I honestly think they are doing the most. And they are willing to probably do the most for agriculture in the fight, to include agriculture in the fight against climate change. I really hope people saw that I was really partly trying to make sure that the Liberals hold their feet to the fire because they are not doing enough, and now they want to talk like they are the best choice for if you want to fight climate change. And I don't believe the Liberals. And I actually believe Elizabeth May the most.
So why on this topic do you believe Elizabeth May the most?
Because I think all of the other parties at some point will sacrifice agriculture for something else. And I think the Green Party and agriculture, when it comes to the fight against climate change, they're willing to do what it takes, right? They're willing to bring agriculture in, and they're willing to include us. And I wish the other parties were there, but they're not, man.
So, but what proof is there that the Greens will do that? Why are you putting so much, stake in them?
It's hard to ask the Greens to give us proof because they've only had one seat for how long? I mean,
she's been pretty lonely in the corner there at question period.
Yeah, and then she had to sit next to Max and all that stuff, my real hope is that if they gain some power, they gain some more seats. If we end up with a minority government, Liberal or Conservative, she'll get a little more sway, and she'll be able to kind of push this agenda.
Right. Okay. So are they going to recognize the net positive that we hear all about beef producers, right? About how cow farts are this big contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, and everybody needs to cut back on eating beef. The Greens have kind of been a part of some of that messaging, Danny. So
that's true.
Do you think that they're going to recognize some of the no-till practices and some of the things that farmers are doing in that regard?
I think the beef thing is tough. That's tough for me because I'm not a beef producer. I think the one thing I could kind of pitch is, if we are going to get carbon sequestration kind of payments for practices I'm big on cover crops, but the cover crop thing would be you could essentially set aside acres kind of for climate and drought emergencies for livestock producers, right? I'm just a grain farmer. I could have cover crop acres that I intend to just leave, but it actually is like this year. My cover crop got cut and baled for a local livestock producer because he desperately needed it. And I didn't overcharge him because I kind of want him to come back next year if I do this again, right? So, so the thing is that could actually help lower some feed costs, because if the government is going to give you, say, $50 an acre for the carbon sequestration payments, it's not going to make the price of a bale $200 an acre, round bales or whatever, because there's going to be some local supply and it's going to be close. It's like emergency reserve feed that's sitting there, sequestering carbon, getting paid. If we need it to help out livestock producers, we can pull that in, or you could graze it, right? So it's kind of, there's a kind of a whole synergistic deal here where you roll climate change, carbon sequestration into BRM programs and crop insurance and helping with trade, and this is a big pie that has, like, there's my hands going again, just like on TV.
What shape is that pie? That's like, hey, okay. I'll ask you this, though. You just mentioned trade. May, in your discussion with her, talked a lot about improving and increasing domestic consumption of commodities that farmers are growing. And you made the great point to her that, listen, we're producing way more than we could possibly ever domestically consume. We need trade. Yeah. Do you think she got that point?
I think so. Like, I mean, I had to watch back on the tape, but I mean, she did say, like, the exporting the excess is not a problem. And she did point out that adding value added locally, adding value added inside our own country is a good thing. And I can't disagree with her, right? Like, I mean, we just saw a big announcement this morning for a new oat milling facility in Winnipeg. Like, yeah, more of that is all good. I really do think part of it is just people don't understand the scope of modern agriculture, about how many tons we are actually producing per acre and what Western Canada actually, does with that. Because we grow, like, somebody asked me about this, like, could have you explained it in a better term versus acres? I thought I should have just explained it in loaves of bread. Like, right, yeah. How many acres we have in Western Canada and how many loaves of bread that can produce, because it's probably like 1.5 billion or something.
I love bread. Yeah. I love bread, but I can't eat that. Like, I can't eat 6 loaves a day myself.
We can't even make that much into pizza, and everybody loves pizza. Right? Like,
exactly. Well, and Rosie did, Rosie Barton from The National, the host, she did point out that, listen, Danny Rosie asked you flat out, Danny, how much of what you're producing gets exported? You're like, all of it. Like, we have to have
it
trade.
Is. Yeah. It is in some way. I mean, that was not entirely accurate, because, like, some of our wheat does go to feed, but, like, our feed grains are going for either chicken, hog, or beef exports, right?
Yeah.
So
interesting. So Rosie at the very end had acknowledged that, well, if you can believe it, Danny was nervous. Were you nervous doing it? Because you didn't look nervous.
Dude, did you see my hand shaking in the beginning? Like, it was just like this. It was, dude.
You did good. You clearly thought about what you were going to say, and you did awesome. So congratulations on it.
And I really tried to, like, it kept me up at night for probably a week straight thinking about how I thought the interview would go, what the questions I should ask were, and should I look up a bunch of statistics, and should I look up a bunch of, picture, just all, like, bombarded with numbers. And then I thought that never really works.
Right.
Yeah. So I had my few points I wanted to kind of go after, and the temporary foreign workers thing was kind of third, and I only got. You should
have mentioned that one.
Yeah, I know.
It was from the ag leaders.
Just blew by.
With the time, it does fly by.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my brother asked me after. He's like, "Did you mean to have your top button on your shirt undone?" I was like, "I'm pretty sure it just blew open, and I wasn't paying attention."
That's what you say. Absolutely. I'm like Tom Selleck.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. Anyways.
Okay.
Because I honestly don't remember that much. Like, they asked me for, like, a follow-up question stuff, and I was like, I have to, like, review the tape. Like, gave the Bill Belichick answer.
Okay, so if you would have been sitting down from across with Justin Trudeau instead of Elizabeth May, what would you have asked Justin Trudeau?
Oh, where's the carbon tax? Where's the carbon tax money coming back for carbon sequestration? Like, where is it? Because the way I see the carbon tax, and that's my opposition to it, is I dislike this tax because of they're going to siphon money out for all kinds of other things, and they're going to be all of a sudden, well, we can't pay you. for your carbon sequestration, and we can't pay for solar panels because we spend it on healthcare, or we spend it on defense spending or whatever. And it's really problematic, because if you are collecting $1 from me to fight climate change, I expect you to turn that into $1 of action.
What would you?
And my thing about the Liberals now is like, I mean, I'm not in, because the Liberals have proven in the last 4 years they're really good at taking one tax dollar and turning it into 10 cents. You know,
not a good return. Not a good return. I mean, Elizabeth pointed that out with the pipeline thing, and that pipeline comment that she had was like, they bought a $4.5 million pipeline that like Trans Mountain paid $500 for. It's like, ooh. Yeah, but she would never build it either. So
no. But
hey, what about Andrew Scheer? What would you have asked him?
It'd be the same thing. Why your climate plan is not here? Like, the Conservatives could build a climate plan based with fiscally responsible greenhouse gas emissions, and in Canada, that to me that means agriculture. Because like on that, sorry, I got to tab it on the show there. I did say like greenhouse gas emissions. When you look at what agriculture can do in reducing that, by far and away, we're like the cheapest tech out there, because it's plants, it's seeding. It's like we could reduce our nitrogen fertilizer a little bit in year one. We could reduce our transportation of goods all over the province, kind of thing. Like it's a little bit of a give up, and the gain is massive. So for every $1 you give a farmer, you're probably going to get like $5 back in greenhouse gas emissions. Well, so that's the pitch, right?
The Liberals are talking about planting trees. Well, farmers are planting plants every year.
You get paid for trees, you're going to pay me for cover cropping. That's the way I look at it. And if you're going to pay trees, then you're not actually, like, to me, the way the Liberal climate plan is, it's not really serious about climate change. It's serious about buying votes for being the next government.
It sounds really good. Yeah.
It sounds really good, but like in practice, it's like, oh, okay, so if we collect all this carbon tax money and we need to have the hugest amount of emissions reductions, we're just going to leave agriculture out.
But do you really think the climate change discussion, although it's important, do you really think it's really top of mind as a major election issue that a lot of growers would want discussed? I think trade would be, and the overall health of the economy would be to the more major ones, or do you disagree?
I think agriculture, I think we're super excited to talk about trade and talk about revenue and talk about transportation and all this stuff. And my thing with the climate change and using agriculture in that fight is like, it's our bridge to the average Canadian that doesn't understand agriculture, right? It's our kind of our bridge issue over to the other side. So to bring people in from outside of agriculture, we can't just hammer them on transportation and trade, even though trade is super important. The trade thing is tough, man. Like, what do we do with China? What do we do with the U.S.? Like, that's way above my pay grade.
Mine too. We're still trying to solve that one. Hey, Danny, I really appreciate you joining me here today to discuss your time on the National and really kind of holding Elizabeth May from the Green Party her feet to the fire on some of these topics that are important to farmers.
Yeah. Gotta spit hot fire when you get up there.
And by the way, on Sunday, the Raiders are going down against the Bears. Just want to put that out there. Khalil Mack.
I wouldn't even bet money on.
It's like a bad dream that's coming after you, buddy.
We're going to have 52, like, what are the Bears colors? Navy and orange?
Blue and orange. It's kind of like Oiler colors, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, best of luck. Best of luck to you.
In London,
I'm not
England.
playing, so like, if we
London,
lose,
England.
whatever. If the Raiders lose, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, they're used to it. So, hey, thanks, bud.
Hey, thank you.